There's always been like this kind of like push and pull between them of like which one I'm going to focus on. Eventually, obviously, music ended up winning, but I think that creative spark's always just been there. I really like making things, and I don't know, it's really good to like kind of express yourself as well. I think the new generation for me, it's all about keeping the genre moving forward. I was pretty shocked when I was selected. I obviously got the email through and I literally thought it was one of those, thanks for applying, like really appreciate it. You've not been selected this time, but I opened it and I was like, oh, is this happening? I was like, I think I was pretty span out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, 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 not now. But obviously, I think if that was now, I'd literally just look at them like, excuse
Yeah.
me, what? No.
Hi, and welcome to the 5th episode of the One More Thing New Generation podcast. My name is Annelies, and today we're interviewing Miyamoro. She is chosen by you, our community, and she has everything to fit into the category of New Generation. She discovered her passion for drum and bass in Bristol, where she studied arts, and fell in love with the genre at her first rave with Matthews headlining. This year, everything comes full circle for her as she's sharing the stage, or boat, rather, with the same artist at Hospitality on the Beach. She's also been selected for the new Artist Development Mentorship program by Hospital Records, and her debut EP, Scattered Reflections, has just dropped on Face Records. Time for a chat. Hi, Miyamoro. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, very good. Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. This is called the New Generation podcast. So let's dive in deep from the first question. What does it mean to you to be a part of this new generation?
I think new generation for me, it's all about keeping the genre moving forward. So that's something that's really important to me as an artist, doing something that's, a little bit unique, a little bit like kind of more experimental. I think it's really easy for a lot of both new and old producers at the moment to really latch onto the sound that a lot of their favorite producers are making. I think this has become really prevalent with things like Patreon and stuff becoming very commonplace now as well. I think what the most important thing is, though, is that we all kind of find our own little space to flourish within all of that. And I don't necessarily mean creating a new subgenre or anything like that, but just kind of experimenting with new sounds and new ideas whilst actually keeping the essence of the genre that you fell in love with in the first place.
And how do you find your sound?
So I think when I started making drum and bass, I already kind of had in mind the kind of sound that I wanted to go for. I'm really inspired by things like house and future garage and stuff like that, and people like Flume. And I think I always really wanted to incorporate a lot of those elements within drum and bass. So the main question for me, rather than figuring out my sound, was how do I make those sounds and how do I make them translate to drum and bass? So I spent quite a few years when I first started producing, learning a lot about sound design and just really kind of diving deep into it. And then kind of from there, I think I developed, I guess, what I'd say my sound is now.
You were saying how you were listening to house and like other genres more. How did you find your way to drum and bass?
I fell into drum and bass pretty haphazardly, honestly. So I went to university in Bristol, and as you can imagine, it's drum and bass over the world. And when I went there, I had no idea of drum and bass whatsoever, really. Like I'd obviously heard it before, but it wasn't a genre that I really focused on or listened to. At that point, I was making like indie folk music, so completely different realm. And then one of my friends there at uni took me to this drum and bass rave, and I just kind of fell in love with the atmosphere, really loved the music as well, obviously. Kind of went from there. I think I ended up splurging my loan after that on some CDJs. And yeah, I just kind of fell in love with mixing, and then it all just kind of, yeah, became my life after that, really.
You were making indie, right? And then you were
Yeah.
listening to house, and then you ended up in drum and bass. That's quite an interesting.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
So before I went to uni, I was like playing guitar and singing, and like I wasn't even really listening to a lot of house at that point, honestly. It was all just kind of like indie music. I really liked Wave then as well. It's kind of like very melodic, kind of grime influenced. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But that was kind of like the only electronic music that I listened to. Yeah, I think when I started listening to drum and bass, I kind of delved deeper into other electronic music genres like house and future garage and stuff. And I can't lie, I haven't really listened to much indie since.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, is there still like an influence of indie and house and future garage like in your drum and bass, or is that like gone?
Definitely with the house and future garage, I don't think so much of the indie anymore. I think a lot of the melodic elements of that is probably why I produce the music that I do now. But I don't think I listen to enough of it now to really have that influence there in my music.
You were also saying how you were inspired by artists like Bloom. Were there other inspirations?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Cameron Crooked is a big one. Mephius as well. Like the first proper drum and bass event I actually went to was one with, I think it was a Mephius launch party, and I was obsessed with Neuro after that. So like Cameron Crook and Mephius will always be very like high on my inspirations for me.
And then now it's still Matthews and Common Crooked, or are there other sounds that you were inspired by? Like,
So yeah, I listen to a lot of different music now. I think I find myself listening to less and less drum and bass unless I've got kind of a set coming up or something like that. Then obviously I'll go and, dive for the new music, kind of see like the new people that are out there. But for just general everyday listening, I listen to a lot of people like St. John Hawk, Flume, Lapalux. And I think that's where most of my inspiration comes from now. I feel like I've got enough of a grounding, I guess, in drum and bass to know kind of how all those patterns work, what can kind of work for a track that I can just bring those dual elements in now from that inspiration.
yeah, I hear a lot of artists say that they don't listen to drum and bass like at all for inspiration because like then it takes away like your inspiration. Like you want, then it's almost like you're trying
Exactly.
to be a copycat or something. Is that why you also
Exactly.
don't?
No, exactly that. It's kind of like I was saying at the start with platforms like Patreon now. I think there tends to be a lot of people get these platforms and then they try to create those sounds that their favorite artists are making too kind of close to that rather than doing that experimentation themselves. And I guess, yeah, that's kind of why I don't listen to it too much outside of planning for sets or just general listening every now and again. It gets very boring after a while when you're making it all day and then listening to it as well.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Then back to like the new generation topic. So
Mhm.
you're also quite literally new generation because you've been selected for artist development by Hospital Records. So congratulations on
Yeah,
that. How is that
thank you.
going?
Yeah, really good. They've been absolutely amazing. I was pretty shocked when I was selected. I obviously got the email through and I literally thought it was one of those, thanks for applying, like really appreciate it. You've not been selected this time, but I opened it. I was like, oh shit, it's happening. They've been great as well. So I've got a guy called TJ who does pretty much all of like the sessions for me and like arranges them with the artists. And it's really nice just being able to tell him, look, I'm struggling with this issue right now, or I want to know more about this. And he can set me up with someone who like literally lives that in their day-to-day life.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's really good.
And is there something that you wanted to learn from the start that you've like already like taken away from it?
Yeah, definitely. So I had a really good session with Newtone, who spoke to me a lot about kind of his mixdown and mastering process and a lot more of like kind of the mindset behind it as opposed to just the you need this plugin or you need to do it like this. Because I think that can be quite counterproductive. So that was a really good session of telling me how he actually approaches it and what he thinks about when he's going into those sort of sessions. There's also one that we're scheduling at the moment, which is focused around licensing and publishing. So it's really cool being able to do those sessions that maybe aren't so focused within the door and are just how you can kind of navigate the music world because it's pretty daunting like with a new artist because there's so many things that I don't understand.
Mhm.
So it's really nice being able to kind of hear about those things and actually learn how they work. No, yeah, it's really handy for that, and it's something that I haven't really experienced before, and I think it's something that's quite hard to get as an artist unless you know someone within the scene who's quite big already personally. So yeah, very thankful for them for that.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's also like, community is also really important to find. Do you have any other like communities or like groups that you're part of that you want to maybe like talk about? in this?
Yeah, so there's obviously Face Records, which is probably like the most active community that I'm a part of. They're all absolutely amazing, and everyone's super supportive of one another as well. It's literally just like a big bunch of mates really who make some really cool tunes. And there's obviously like the Divided community as well, and I think the people who've had releases in there. And I think it's just really nice being surrounded with very like-minded people who are also going through like the exact same thing at the moment. It's great for like sharing or like feedback and advice. I think that's probably one of the most important things, honestly, like as a new like producer, actually having that community in the first place.
Yeah, and also having that shared passion, I think, is important. Like someone, if there's something that you really love, like, you know, drum and bass, like you can just really talk about your passion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing for motivation as well because you'll see someone posting like a load of their new tunes and you're like, shit, I need to write some new music. So yeah, it's really good having those kind of people, sort of people to surround
Yeah.
you.
I also saw so Face Records you talked about. I saw that you're releasing your new EP on the 25th, right? That's next
Yeah, I
week.
am.
This podcast will be out by the time that you've released that EP. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so that'll be my first EP. It's really like a collection of tunes that basically like summarize my progression as an artist. Like the main track on there, Ephemeral, was one that I wrote probably like a year and a half ago now. And then after that, there's just kind of tunes that kind of go up to now, really like Scattered Reflections I wrote back in December and finished off in January. So I think it's really cool to like see how like my styles changed, and obviously the actual like sonic content of the tunes gets a lot better as well. So yeah, I'm really excited for that to actually come out finally.
And how did you notice your growth in your tunes that you're making?
I think a big thing for me is drum sound design. Like you can see a very clear kind of progression from like obviously that ephemeral tune up to Scattered Reflections. Like just for example, so in Scattered Reflections, I decided to use a stereo kick rather than just kind of your bog standard mono kick, and I think it stands out really nicely. I think I've got a lot more confident with maybe trying things that are like a little bit more out of the box, and the sounds are a lot cleaner as well. So I think that's the main thing that I noticed. But I think just in general, like the ideas are a lot more fleshed out now as well.
So basically also like coming into your own more, maybe?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And then you also talked about Divided. You've got a boat party with them, Envision,
Yeah,
coming up, hospitality on the beach. Yeah.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's massive. So how are you looking
Yeah,
forward to
I'm
that?
so excited for that. It's like some of my favorite artists on my boat, sorry, on the boat, going to be playing with Yopper as well, Aegis. So yeah, that's going to be insane. Oh, so I played Hospitality on the Beach back in 2019, but that was back when I was just DJing and I was doing like a lot of footwork, so it never really worked that well. So I'm really excited to go back and actually be able to play my own music this time.
So it's going to be like not a full circle, but I mean, like, I guess maybe like a full
No,
circle, you know?
it literally
Yeah.
is. Yeah, no, it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah. And how does it feel to now like bring your own music then? So
Surreal,
yeah.
like really surreal. Probably only like a year and a half ago, I was so scared to play my own tunes out, and now I've got like quite a few tunes that I can play out, which is insane to me.
How did you find that confidence then to like play your tunes out?
It took a while and a lot of just, I don't know really. So I've always been very kind of like self-conscious of my own music, I guess. In like the beginning stages as well, I absolutely hated the idea of sharing anything that wasn't completely finished with anyone. I'm still kind of like that now, I guess, but I don't mind so much if it's close friends. I guess the confidence just came from like just doing it. I think I just got to a point where I was like, I'm playing so many of like other people's tunes in my sets, which is great, but I'm advertising myself as like a producer and a DJ. Like I need to get out there. I need to just do it. So I kind of just took the step really and did it. And since then it's been absolutely fine.
Yeah, another thing that you mentioned is that like you didn't want to show anything that's unfinished. That's also something that I hear a lot from other artists that they find it hard to finish something because it's not perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I struggle quite a lot with that to this day and probably forever will. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, I think it's just because music to when you produce a tune, that is you. And
Mm.
it's kind of, it's very difficult to kind of share that with people if you're not 100% happy with it. I think as well, like it's even more difficult as a woman in drum and bass. I think this gets talked about quite a lot, how there's obviously more of kind of an expectation, there's more of a burden on us where, I don't know, say if one of your sounds isn't quite right, or maybe it sounds very close to a preset or something like that, you're gonna get picked up on that. Whereas I feel like a lot of men within the scene have kind of got the freedom to do whatever they want with it. So there's a lot more thought behind what we do and how we do it. That definitely makes it a lot more difficult.
How do you notice that, like, as a woman in the scene, that, like, obviously you mentioned that, like, you get picked up on more, but is there also like like, do you also see a strength in like being a woman in drum and bass?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of power behind it. And a lot of the women that I know within drum and bass are very like strong kind of female kind of inspirations. Like Gifta, for example, she's probably like one of the strongest headed women that I know. So I think there is like a lot of benefit to it as well. And a big thing for me is like it shouldn't matter at the end of the day. So
Mhm.
I've been very fortunate in my career. I think that I've never really been kind of shouted out or called out for like being like a woman in drum and bass, or like no one's kind of like picked on me for that. But I know a lot of people who have, and I can definitely see it from that side of things. I think like the worst thing that's happened to me is when I first started DJing and I was playing drum and bass, someone came in and like asked if he could play a tune like whilst I was playing a set.
Excuse
Um,
me? What was your
yeah,
answer to that?
no, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, how did you just say like no, or like I'll be firm and be like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah, I was like, I think I was pretty span out.
Yeah,
And I was just like, no, 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 not now. But obviously, I think if that was now, I'd literally just look at them like, excuse
yeah.
me, what? No. So I think that's like the worst thing that's happened to me, which I'm very thankful for because I know that's not the norm for most women. Yeah, it gets bad out there.
Yeah, damn, did you talk to him afterwards or they just
He
disappeared?
disappeared,
Okay, well,
disappeared
good
into
for
the
him, I
night, never
guess.
saw him again.
Yeah, that's mad. So yeah, I wanted to ask another question about like the perfectionism. How did you, I mean, get over that is a big word because I don't think anyone ever gets over like, what's wanting things to be perfect, but
Yeah.
like how do you deal with it now?
So I'm definitely not over it in any way, but I try and set myself like deadlines and time limits of when something has to be done. So
Mhm.
with my EP that's coming out next week, so there were quite a few tunes on that. The track listing has completely changed from what it was originally meant to be because I didn't like the tunes anymore. I was a lot better of a producer than I was then when I made those tunes. So I decided to rewrite just entirely new tunes, but I had a very short time frame to do it. And Gabby Gifter was like, right, you've got until this date to do it. So when I got to like a week before that, I was like, right, this is it. Let's mix it down now. And kind of that end product is just how it's going to be. And I think like just setting yourselves those deadlines, it makes it a lot less stressful because once it's done and
Mhm.
that's it. You don't have to kind of worry about constantly going back into the project, which I find a lot of the time it ends up making it worse anyway. So yeah, that's definitely how I deal with that.
Like the deadline is literally like this is it. You can't go back. Yeah.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you have to have it done by then. You can't go back
Mhm.
into it. And yeah, I just told her to kind of just send it off, submit it, so I can't touch it anymore.
Yeah. It's like it's all done now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. And I
Yeah.
just I try not to listen to it for like a couple of weeks after because otherwise I'll
All
just be
right.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I need to change that snare or something stupid like that when it's fine. Like no one's gonna notice that.
yeah. Have you listened back to it like
I have now. I have
now?
now.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because you're obviously playing it out live and stuff. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Then another thing that I wanted to ask is like I saw a reel about you like working quite closely on like an artwork of one of your
Mm.
previous projects. Are you always this involved in like creativity?
I think it's really important to have like a very strong kind of brand connected with your music. It doesn't have to be anything major, even if it's just like a color palette or something like that, that when someone sees it, it's kind of instantly recognizable as you, or you can kind of get the feel for it. So for a lot of my artwork, I use a lot of kind of like pinks and purples and stuff. It's kind of like that cyberpunky kind of vibe, which I really like. And I think it really kind of it shows that like moody sort of like melodic kind of like quite
Mm.
gritty vibe as well. So I've definitely always been very involved with this is kind of what I want, and I think I always have a vision of what I want the artwork to look like. So with the one with Divided, the one that was came out recently with circles on, So Mark, the person who did the artwork for me, they'd recently done one with an artist called Laloon, and it was like a very like ethereal, very like Baroque sort of artwork. And I was like, right, I want something like that, but I want it more mysterious. I want more smoke, and I want it purple. So I made up a mood board, and the vision just like instantly clicked. And it was kind of a very similar case with my EP that's coming out next week as well. Like I knew kind of the sort of style that I wanted to go for. Genjin's like a great artist as well. He's done my artwork for my first EP too, so I instantly knew that it was going to work. So yeah, definitely always very involved with it.
So your inspiration is like cyberpunk, mysterious, like why those? Like where does that inspiration come from?
I don't really know entirely. So before music, I was very big into art. I did art history at uni as well. So like art's always been very front of mind for me. I can't say exactly why those colours clicked. It was never really intentional. It just kind of just happened. So with the first EP, I wasn't as involved with that one. I kind of just said, look, I like these artworks, kind of see what you can do. And when it came back with like the purples and stuff, I just noticed myself slowly using like more purples and pinks sprinkled in like across my artwork. And then when it came to the second one as well, that's kind of when I thought, right, this is clearly what I'm going to use as branding. Like this is what works. This is what I'm always gravitating towards. And it kind of just went from there, really.
Yeah, the next question I wanted to ask, like you've partly already answered it because like your study is like a creative study. But yeah, where does this creative side come from within you?
I think I've always been a very creative kind of person. So when I was younger, art and music were like my two main like loves, I guess, throughout school. And then when I was at college and A level, I was doing art on one side and then music on the other. There's always been like this kind of like push and pull between them of like which one I'm going to focus on. Eventually, obviously, music ended up winning, but I think that creative spark's always just been there. I really like making things, and I don't know, it's really good to like kind of express yourself as well. It's nice just to be able to sit down in front of a computer as well, just for a bit now, make some silly sounds, and then by the end of it, you've got like a full piece of music.
Yeah, I mean, like creating music is also creating something, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
And where, like, do you remember like the first memories of with creativity, with music? Like, where does that love come from?
That's a good question. I guess for me, like going right back where like the creativity came from is when I got my first guitar when I was like 12 or something. And I was really obsessed with like Ben Howard at the time. And obviously he has this like mad, complicated, like finger picking guitar style. And I spent absolutely ages trying to like replicate it and learn how to do that. And I think it was kind of from there that it kind of just evolved that you can do things like that are a little bit different in music. Like you don't just have to like strum your guitar, like you can mess around and like make cool sounds with it. And I think after that, getting Logic and being able to like mess around with like cool effects and stuff like that, I think that's where my creativity like really came out with it, which I guess obviously probably did help with where I am now with music. Because even though I've only been producing drum and bass for 3 years, I think kind of having that backing in kind of more not classical but raw music, I guess, like live music, that's the word I'm looking for. It definitely helped with like the more melodic side of things.
Yeah, and you're saying about like how you were like interested by, you know, the difficult kind of music that Ben Howard played. I mean, like drum and bass is arguably the most difficult genre, like and most detailed genre to produce, right?
Apparently my brain likes a challenge.
No, but yeah, there's like some link to that.
Yeah, I think it's like the intricacies of it. Like within my own music now, like I love like the little ear candy pieces, or so like in my latest track Circles, like the way the chord pattern goes is like quite weird and offbeat. And I find things like that really inspiring. It's a bitch to mix, but it's really fun to make at the same time.
Yeah. And you say it's a bitch to mix, but then like you make like you obviously you have to mix it. So like how do you how do you do that?
With great difficulty. I literally posted a TikTok about this the other day, how like I struggle so much with mixing my own tunes. And I think this is an issue that isn't just for me. Like I think all producers struggle mixing their own tunes because you can hear like every little detail in it because it's your own piece of music. But I tend to just find one tune that I can mix out of it. I never double it because it never works. Gabby swears to me that she's got a double for some of my tunes. I need to hear them to believe her. But yeah, I do my best to find one tune that I can kind of mix out of it nicely. And because I have quite, I guess, full intros, like it's not usually just like some hats and some Atmos, like there's usually like a little bit kind of going on. It's quite easy to just tail off into that and let the tune play out. But yeah, I do wish that they were kind of a little bit more doubleable sometimes.
I mean, like if that's the thing that makes you stand out, like that's great to have as well, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I don't think I'd ever change my music just for that. But what I'm trying to do now, and something that I spoke to people at hospital about, is just kind of thinking about who I'm writing that music for. So I think at the moment I write all of my music just kind of without any thought of like the audience or like playing it in a rave in mind at all. But I'm kind of being a little bit more conscious about that now. Not necessarily making it kind of like more simplistic, but just thinking about the phrasing in it. If it's way too overcomplicated, if people can actually follow it, because I do kind of have a tendency to going way too over the top with things, and then the tune just doesn't really make sense anymore.
So is that also something that you're learning in your mentorship, or is that just something that you're like doing yourself?
I think it's more so just something I'm doing myself.
Right.
It's something that was pointed out to me more so, and I've become aware of now. So I'm trying to gradually kind of become more aware of that whilst I'm producing.
What are you working on at the moment? Obviously, you've got your EP coming out next week. Is there anything else that you're excited to talk about, or yeah?
Yeah, so I've got obviously a couple of things in summer that are really exciting. Like obviously Hospitality on the Beach is going to be insane. I've got another little festival I'm playing at called Rosa, which will be really fun. And then there's a couple of gigs that I'm waiting to be confirmed a little bit later on in the year. But at the moment, musically, I'm basically just building up as much music as possible for a couple of labels, which should hopefully be for either 2026 or beyond. So yeah, that's mostly what I'm working on at the moment.
Okay. And then last but not least, last question. Who should we invite on the next edition of the New Generation podcast?
Okay, I think Spectral, really sick producer, definitely kind of encapsulates that whole new generation vibe as well. Yeah, I think she's great.
Thank you for the chat. These were all my
Of
questions.
course.
Thank you for your time as well. And thanks to you, our listeners, for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Miyamoro as much as we have, and next time we'll interview Spectral. In the meantime, check out our other episodes with guests like Verity and Ecstatic, and we'll see you soon. Bye!
One more thing.